to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Another week, another Monday Motivation. I'm Lesley Kaplan, bringing this to you every single Monday with our inspiring guests. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Egan & Cohn Insurance, as well as to Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. So who do we have for you today as our special guest? She's well known in Jerusalem circles and around Israel to especially women in business. Her name is Bat-Chen Grossman, aka Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, who is a marriage coach for women who are building successful careers and who are in business. She's also the creator of the CAR method, which as she mentions, is a groundbreaking approach that fully integrates God into every aspect of our lives and transforms our marriage and our business. Her mission is to show women that it is possible to have a good marriage and a successful business, and of course that it's all part of God's plan for abundance and alignment. So Bat-Chen, we're so happy to have you here on the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Thank you so much for being our guests. Share with us who Bat-Chen is behind the scenes. Growing up as a child, I understand you grew up in different countries. It wasn't just making Aliyah to Israel in one country, how that impacted your life, how that molded you as a person, and of course, working with women in business and as a marriage coach and counselor, and anything else you'd like to share, any tips. And I understand you've created a delighted car method, which I'd like to hear about as well.
Okay, wow. So you want to start from when I was young. So we're going to start with the fact that I was actually born in Israel. My parents grew up here and got married here. I was born here. And when my parents had 3 kids, they went on shlichut. So that is through the Jewish agency. They were sent by Israel to go and be teachers abroad. And the idea is to educate the Jews outside of Israel and sort of pull them towards Israel and, inspire them to come and live here. And I was 4 years old. My first memory is the goodbye party at the nursery school. My parents put some address on the bulletin board that I don't think any of us were able to read. And they said, you can tell your parents to send letters here. And that's the first memory I have, is this like goodbye party. And then we lived in Venezuela for 4 years. We came back to Israel for 2 years, went to Argentina for 2 years. That's when my father was my principal and my mother was my teacher. You could imagine that was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, for any kid, that's a nightmare, right?
It was great and awful at the same time. I have great memories of it, but I also have these like really awkward moments where I remember my friends talking about my mother and I'm like, I don't know which side to take, so just leave me out of it. And I remember walking into my father's office all the time and like, just let me out of this one, okay? And trying to like make deals. And my father's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. And then, lets me hang out there anyway. So it was a fun way to grow up, definitely different than anybody else I knew. And let me just finish up the circle for you. So Venezuela, 4 years, Israel, then Argentina for 2 years, then Houston, Texas for 1.5 years, then Detroit, Michigan for 1 year, and then New York. And as soon as we got to New York, we sort of settled there, and every person, every kid, I'm the oldest. So by the time I was in 10th grade already, all the other kids needed to sort of have a education that was continuous. And the reason I say that is because I got really good at math, because that is one continuous thing that does not matter what language you learn it in. You're always going to learn the same thing. But language-wise, I was really behind because I wasn't reading books as much as my friends. I also am not a big reader. My parents used to pay us $1 for every book we read in Hebrew.
Oh, that's
that.
cool. That's fun.
It was a great incentive. And this way I read books. That was the only way. And the only reason why my Hebrew stayed so good. So that's a little bit of the journey. What I learned from it, I learned how to introduce myself. I learned how to connect to people really quickly. I did not learn what happens after you know someone for enough time, because like every 2 years we moved. So I never had these long relationships that I could have now. And it was something I had to learn. I lived in the same place and I found myself knowing my friends for so long and seeing their kids growing up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't know. I'm not used to it. So, in the beginning of my marriage, I found that to be one of the hardest things to know what to do with the relationship that just keeps going. That was very interesting. Even though I did have a lot of very solid relationships that were family, right? Because they didn't change. But friends wise, I thought that that was a really interesting thing to note.
Right. Are you, by the way, in contact with any of these people from your former years? Because you were much younger then. There was no internet then or WhatsApp that you could stay in contact.
There was nothing. So if I saw somebody or if they introduced themselves to me, I would remember them because I remember faces, I remember stories, I remember, the experiences. But as you say, I was pretty young. So I had like my best friend from here and my best friend from there. I haven't kept in touch with them, but now that there's Facebook, I sort of like they pop up sometimes and I see what they're up to. But it was very hard. Like, as you mentioned, we're from the olden days when there was no social media and there was barely email, there was nothing. I remember my mother would take pictures of us, go to the photo store, do like a full page of pictures and send it in the mail. And then
The olden days sending in the mail.
And
Wow.
then, like, a year later, when we'd come to visit in Israel and we'd walk into my grandparents' house, there was all these posters of us all over in the back of the doors and in the back of things, because that's all they had of us. Very little actual interaction, and phone calls were extremely expensive, of course. So, that was the
So
olden.
there wasn't much connection. So tell me, as a child, I mean, you've said in terms of the way you formed relationships that for kids growing up like that, you can either sink or swim. It can either be great for your confidence if you're outgoing, but it can also really affect one's confidence and make one really shy sometimes if you're not able to just go out and easily meet people.
Right. And I'll tell you what, I give a lot of credit to my parents when people would say, it's so terrible that your kids don't have stability. My mother would say, what are you talking about? They have a stable home, parents who love each other, and as a unit, we move from place to place. So they've never left home. They have 100% stability. Their home has never changed, has never left, has never, shaken up. Like that was such a good answer. And sometimes as a kid, when you hear what your parents say, it like strengthens something in your own belief. So people would tell me, "Oh, you grew up in such a, you never had stability." I'm like, "Actually, I think I had the most stability of most of my friends." And especially now with so much divorce going on and stress in people's homes, I really think I had it best. So I'm very
Right.
grateful.
No, for sure. It also makes you a lot more worldly as a person, and you've experienced so many different cultures. Do you speak different languages now, or is it mostly English and Hebrew? Do you remember
Yeah.
anything from the former years?
Yeah. So in Venezuela, we spoke Spanish, and my parents, first of all, my parents are amazing. You can have them as a guest, as my mother as a guest if you want, because she's so fun. Um,
I'd love to. I will talk to
they
you about that.
They had so much belief in us as children. They used to say things, and I'm telling you, as a parent, I learned this from them. Say the things you want your kids to believe because it works. They just said, what do you mean? Kids, they show up anywhere, they learn the language. In 2 weeks, you guys are going to be, fluent. And that's what happened. We showed up. You're 4 years old. You play with a kid. He says fork. You say, what's this? He says knife, and then by the end of the day, fork, knife, spoon, plate, whatever. And you go on to the next day and you're playing something else. And now you know all the different cars and the different trucks and the different things. By 2 weeks, we were fluent. Maybe more. Doesn't matter. I was four, so I don't have any time or space feeling, but very, very quickly. And then we would come home and correct my parents. So, you know how it is, like they'll say the wrong sentence or the structure of the sentence or whatever, and we would correct them. That was very funny. So I speak
It's very
Spanish.
similar to Olim in Israel. And I know when I made Aliyah, and very often, even though my kids were born here, the majority of them, I was checking certain things in Hebrew with them. So I can totally identify. And we all know too that often the parents settle well. If we think of our friends that have made Aliyah or family, once their kids are settled, and the kids generally do settle better or quicker.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with the parents' belief in them. I have seen kids whose parents are so hyper stressed about how you're going to adjust and what's going to be, and oh my gosh, you're not good with language and this and that. And they put the kid in a situation where he has to believe this thing about himself that he's not good with language, which is completely nonsense because he's a kid. He just is, you know? It's you can't make it any other way. It's just go, go forth and prosper type of thing. So believe in your kids when they're having a hard time. Tell them, I believe in you. You'll figure it out. Kids have this way of resilience. Of course we got, tutoring. Of course we got help. It does not contradict, right? If we needed something, my parents got it for us. We had tutoring, I remember for sure in Argentina, because there was all these like really hard Spanish things that we had to pass tests about. They came and helped us. It's not like you're expecting the kid to be superhuman, but you do want them to believe that they can figure it out with help, with people, with, raise your hand, say, I need something, but don't make it about, oh, I'm broken. I must not be good at this. Next, let's try something else. Or let's just quit, or let's whatever. It's like, there's almost, just don't allow it.
Absolutely. And this positive mindset you also use in with your working with your clients and moving forward. That's a very big thing, not only with our children, but also, with your clients and with people that you coach. So let's take you from the kids' age moving forward. Bat-Chen, and also your beautiful name. That's an unusual name.
So let me
Were
say
you always
something about
Bat-Chen,
that.
even
Uh,
abroad?
Bat-Chen is daughter, Bat. Chen is grace. And it also is Chet and Nun, which is my parents' initials, Chanoch and Naomi. So
Uh-huh.
I am the oldest, and I am the daughter of Chanoch and Naomi. And also, I was born on Parshat Noach, which is the letters backwards, Nun Chet. So my parents thought that was very cute, and it's it's a lot of who I am. I am very much a continuation of the chain. I care a lot about being part of something bigger. And I think that's a lot of what's motivating me and what I instill in my clients and my people. I have a podcast too, Connected for Real. You can look it up. Um, it's positivity. It's this feeling that you're part of something bigger, that you actually matter, that God put you here on purpose. We're it's very powerful in my life, even just as a name. So thank you for noticing that. Um,
Absolutely. I've always noticed that from the beginning.
yeah, thank you. And I always thought I was the only one, but my mother keeps saying that no, there's other Bat-Chens around. And when I made Aliyah, I started finding them. So it's not the most common name, but there's definitely Bat-Chen sprinkled around everywhere and at different ages too. So it's very exciting. It makes it for a fun,
For sure, but you are
conversation.
the only one, Bat-Chen. You're unique. So share with us a little bit about your uniqueness moving forward, growing up, your teenage years, your adult years, moving into what you do, and of course, making Aliyah or coming back to Israel again,
Yeah.
having made Aliyah and being born here as a kid.
Yeah. So as a teenager, we lived in New York most of high school and then into college. And I think already in 12th grade, I knew I wanted to marry a rabbi. My father is a rabbi. For me, this was just the normal life. I didn't know any different. And I wanted to choose that life for myself. And people would look at me and say, you're too young to understand, but like, you don't marry a job, you marry a person. And I'm like, you're too young to understand. I was a little bit peppery. This is not a job, it's a way of life. It is a talking experience of what you're here to do in the world. And that's the person I was looking for. Thank God I got him. And because I had this in mind and I wanted somebody really great, then I was very focused on what am I going to do to support my family and to be that person who is going to allow for my husband to grow in this part of his studies, or who he's becoming, or whatever you want to call it that. So in 12th grade, I was sitting around talking to friends and I said, I don't know what to choose. I like computers, I like math, I like art, and I don't know, what should I study? What should I do? And one of the girls from across the room says, you know, my sister is learning in Pratt Institute to be a graphic designer, and it sounds exactly like what you're describing. So, of course, the next day I was already there checking it out. I talked to her sister. I, signed up right away pretty much. And I was signed up to go to Pratt Institute. I studied in Manhattan for 2 years. I became a graphic designer. Of course, I finished my BA, and I started working on Fifth Avenue. And the whole time I am very focused on my goal, right? So all the things, I'm not just like, oh, I'm going to make a lot of money. No, no, I am going to make a lot of money so that my husband can become who he is. And I thought, I'm very proud of how mature I was at that time. A lot of people look at 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and they're like, they don't really get it. It's true. They don't get a lot of things because they're young, but also they're so clear on what does matter to them that we have to give them credit for that. There's always this, when you take out all the layers of what they're supposed to do and what they should do and whatever, every teenager has this burning desire to do something that matters to them, and they're very embarrassed of it. They're made to feel like it's wrong. So be that human in their life that believes in them and tells them it's right. Go for it. And I'm very grateful that for the most part, my parents went along with me. Um, I was working on Fifth Avenue when I met my husband. It was I went out with his roommate, and his roommate set us up. It was very cute. And that was sort of like the beginning of who I became. So we very early on decided that we wanted to live in Israel because it's a mitzvah. And my husband, who is a walking, talking Torah, does mitzvahs for fun. So this is what he does in the world, and that's what I chose. So things started aligning really beautifully. And we decided that he was going to first finish his rabbinate studies, and then we would come. So by the time he was finished, I already had a baby. And we made Aliyah as a family. So it's called Mishpacha Ola. So it's an Olim family. So even though I was Katin Choser, which is a child who was taken out of Israel and is now coming back, I technically wasn't an Ola, but because I married a non-Israeli and had a baby, then as a family, we were an Ole family. So that actually was really cool.
And all the time, your parents were still in the States. They hadn't moved back here yet, correct?
No, correct.
Right.
No, they only came
Were
to
you the first one to come back of your family?
Yes. It was me first. Then my brother came 5 years after me. You might know him, Hanan El Gez. He is the husband of Teila, Hashem Yikom Dama, who was murdered on her
Yes,
way to having
an
a baby.
amazing. I listened to your very, very moving podcast with him, and if you haven't listened to it, to our viewers, you got to listen to it. It's so moving and so emotional. And the two of you, maybe you want to share more about it, but you seem to be sort of like peas in a pod. That you both seem to be so inspiring and so positive, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And he gave credit to my parents too, but I think it just makes sense, right? Because like if we came out so similar.
Yeah,
It was
maybe just in one sentence, share with some of our viewers who are not familiar with this tragic episode which affected your family, and just how positive you still are and he is moving forward.
Yeah. So my sister-in-law was on her way to having a baby, and she was shot to death by a terrorist who, thank God, is now dead. Um, and and then they were able to deliver the baby. and the baby did not survive. He passed away 2 weeks later. So we had two, um, it was like two loops of grief. It was continuous, and thank God now my brother is raising his three boys by himself and is working towards healing the family and getting remarried and continuing life.
Well, that's not easy for anyone to, to have to be faced with.
Nope.
And let's just talk a little bit about resilience. And I know that's one thing that I'm sure you work with your clients with in terms of resilience. How can a family bounce back so quickly? And maybe it's not so quickly. Let's just talk about not only a family in this unique situation, but about resilience in general and helping those that maybe need a bit of assistance with resilience.
So, first of all, you have to understand the nature of human beings. Even just looking at body, the body is self-healing. You cut yourself, eventually it will heal. Maybe you'll have a little scar, maybe you won't, but you won't be bleeding forever unless, whatever. We're talking normal. Um, it a lot of times when we look at the world on the outside, we could look at the world on the inside and our emotional world and our, spiritual world, our soul. It's also self-healing and it wants to live. And I remember when my grandmother talks about the Holocaust, because she was 4 years old when she went through the Holocaust, between 4 and 10. She says she was looking out the window and seeing the seasons change. And she realized that life is going on, even though her life is not. She's hiding, she's, scared of, freaked out, very scared, very alone, very feels neglected because she was hidden. So she was alone for a lot of the time. Obviously, she wasn't neglected because her mother was constantly moving her from place to place, saving her life, right? But in her experience, and she remembers looking out the window and seeing that the flowers are coming in and that now the leaves are falling and now there's rain and now there's this and that. The seasons, the world, it's doing that thing that it's so naturally does, which is regrows, replenishes, relives. And that's what we're built here to do, right? God isn't pushing us down to say, okay, that's it, you're done. No, what he's doing is, listen, you're about to grow like big time. And this is just the little push you need in order to get there. So, yeah, let's get through it. And I think the understanding of that life is stronger than death is so important. And sometimes it's not about death. Sometimes it's about, grieving something else, like loss of money. People can have a gigantic loss in their business and it could push them down, or they could say, what are the million things I learned from this experience, right? I had one coach who made me sit down and write 25 things you learned from this loss. And I walked out going, yeah, it was totally worth that much money. Like the amount of money I lost was worth the lessons I learned. It's an attitude shift when you're looking for the strength of life in the thing that feels like death.
Absolutely. And there's two things I want to say about what you said. Firstly, we need to be able to look at the positive and see the positive. As we know, not everyone is that half cup full,
Mm.
and that's super important. But also, there is, I don't know if you want to mention anything about this, but there's a saying or a proverb about something that Hashem or God only gives challenges to those who he knows can handle it. And it makes us even stronger people. We don't realize how it actually can totally impact us in the future. I don't know if you want to relate to anything to that.
It's, you said it best. The thing that made my brother so strong is his realization that if it would have happened to anyone else, I don't think they could handle it, but I was prepared for it. He says every single one of us during the Shiva said, we feel like God prepared us for this moment. For me, it was breath work. I never went to breath work before. And then suddenly I went to 2 breath work sessions, like 1 month after the other. And I felt so ready for a breakthrough. And I didn't know the breakthrough would be this, but I felt a breakthrough coming, like a big light exploding in the world. Like that's how I saw it. So when it happened, I was like, not what I expected. You know, it was very surreal. My brother says for 2 weeks straight, he was just listening to things about faith and stories about how he believed in God, and then this happened, and the sword that was made out of paper, and I don't know what, and the guy who opens up his hands and he has something in it that like whatever. All these stories, he was just listening and listening and listening. He doesn't know why he was called to, but it was filling his mind the entire 2 weeks before. And the exciting thing also is he would come home and tell Taylor, and she would give him feedback that was positive. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Tell me more and whatever. So he feels like that is what she wants him to be holding on to, because he had that relationship with her towards the end, like a really close conversation about faith. So things like that, they don't just come, on their own. There is some sort of guidance that says, this hurts, it doesn't feel nice, but you're ready for it. You've got everything you need. I'm right here with you. If you need something, raise your hand. Like, I've got you. It feels so good. And
Wow.
every single person has that. I don't want you to believe that, oh, it's because they're so special and they had cool parents and, God really loves them. So he gave them like a gigantic, kafa, um, like a big hit on the head. It's not in the extreme things. It's in every little thing. If you look at just regular things, I'm a marriage coach for women in business. So my focus is always balancing the business and the marriage and how it's affecting your life. But there's a lot of the business aspect where you're like, I don't know, am I on the right track? Should I blah, 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 right? We are constantly doubting ourselves. And what if you had this full belief that I am doing this for God's sake, and I am being guided, and the right people are being attracted to me, and I'm just going to show up, and I'm going to serve, and I'm not going to worry about the details, and God has the how, and He's got the plan. There's some better energy about living like that, right? So,
Right, absolutely. Look, as we know, it's very much said that we can only control what's in our sphere. We can't control what's on the outside, and we can control how we react to these outside events that happen to us. So let's move forward. I'd like to, with the remaining time that we have, share with us about your work, working with women, combining and balancing marriage with business. It's not always easy. It's a challenge. Life-work balance is not always so easy. We've spoken about it before. Share with us about that, some tips you may have, some of the challenges your clients have, and also share with us about your calm method that you created and how that assists us as women in business and with marriage.
okay. So let me fast forward a little bit. I was a graphic designer for 15 years. And indeed, thank God my husband still today continues to study and teach and write books and do his, very greatness things. And I'm very, very proud of him. And he also doesn't get it because he's in the Torah world and he's sitting and learning and doing his thing. And, a lot of the things I'm talking about are like podcasty terms. What is that? Who talks like that? We don't use that. And so there's a very interesting dynamic that has been created in our home where I'm growing and I'm going out there and I'm networking and I have all this movement in my business, and he is sort of stagnant and doing his thing and is on track for his bigness, his greatness that he is towards, but it's not something that's measurable, right? In the Torah world, very little is valued by money. So it's just like you're sitting, you're learning, you're teaching. A lot of his work is for free. People come to him. He has students. He has a YouTube channel, like whatever. And I'm in a completely different world. So as my graphic design years became, around 14, 15 years, I was really breaking through, and I was at a conference and other women around me said, I don't want to grow that big. I just want a little bit more so I can support my family. But I'm afraid to go bigger because it will come at the price of my family. And I, in that moment, said, I will prove you guys wrong. And I went back home and had my entire breakdown. I cried, I screamed, I yelled at my husband that he's not supportive enough and he doesn't get it. And why is he being so blah, 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 blah. And thank God my husband is a mature adult and he let me spill it all out. And then he said, okay, what can I help you? What do you want? What do you need? And we started having really great conversations. And my friends who saw that I broke through, because of course, after that, I got great clients and I got tons of money and I started working less for more. It was really like one of those breakthroughs that you're like, yes. And I thought I was still holding on to graphic design. I was not planning on leaving ever, especially after this breakthrough. And my friend said, you have to tell us what you did. Because not only did your marriage not get hurt, it got better. We see your husband is helping you. We see how excited he is about your work. We see your conversations that are so open, and you bring him into some decisions and you don't let him sabotage what you're planning and all these things that you've been able to create. What did you do? And that's when I came up with the CALM method, the 4 steps to creating flow. And it was basically everything I did all the time. Like in any situation, I saw this pattern of what came naturally to me and what worked, and therefore became the method. So CALM stands for connect to yourself. That's step 1. Step 2 is ask for abundance. Step 3 is listen for the answer. And step 4 is master a higher level of consciousness. If I went into each one really, really in detail, we'd be here all hour. So I'm not going to, but I'm going to give you a little bit of each just so that you can use it in your own life. And this could be used in anything, okay? It could be used in a decision that you need to make, in figuring out what to do in this moment. What should I do about something I messed up in? Whatever. It's really, really versatile. Step 1, you have to stop and listen to what you actually want. What do I want? And I said this about teenagers before, and I'm going to, bring it back here. Strip away all the noise. In every situation, there is all the stuff above and around our heads screaming at us. Do this, say this, you should be this, you're supposed to do this, da 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 da. And it's crazy how much of our mind energy it's taking and stealing from us, where in reality, if you just put that aside for a second and go inwards, your soul knows exactly what you want. And once you know what you want, then you're going to be able to go for it. But if you're doing things for other people, you're never going to get there because it's for them. It's not motivating enough for you. It's just going to take you in circles. So that's step 1, is connect to yourself. Step 2 is ask for abundance. You bring it to God and you ask. And this is a huge thing because a lot of people are carrying a lot of God baggage. He's too strict. He's out to get me. He's this bossy boss that's telling me what to do. And he's like all the way distant over there. And he has no interest in what I, little me, is doing in this world. We have all this baggage carrying around. It's crazy how much we have it. And it's not necessary. God is here to have a relationship with you. So turn to him and say what you want. And he's right here waiting to help you. Now, a lot of people use step 2 as step 1 because they don't take the time to know what they want. And then their relationship with God sounds very whiny. It's like, what do you want from me? What am I supposed to do now? This is, what is this for? It's like, that's not how it's supposed to work, okay? So when you come prepared, what I want and what I'm here to request, then God has the ability to have a conversation with you, show you, take you right, left, pick up this crumb, do the next thing, move along. And that brings us to step 3, which is listen for the answer. Listen for the answer means that you're now going to start taking action in this world, because we're not living in some fluffy, fuzzy land. We're living in this world for a reason, because it's practical, it's physical, it's reality, and your job is to live reality, which is, by the way, why my business is called Connected for Real, because you can't just be connected and think that it's enough being in this fuzzy world of connection. You have to make it real and practical. And I'm very much into integrating those two things. So once you have established what you want and asked God for help, your job is to go out there and take the actions. And then through the actions, you're going to get feedback. You're going to talk to someone and they're going to say no. And you're going to talk to someone else and they're going to say, actually, you should talk to this person. And then you're going to start following God's roadmap instead of your own trying to like control it and force it. So that's listen for the answer. And the cool thing is, by this time, you're seeing miracles because you've gone through the first 3 steps and your mind is blown at how easy it has become. You don't have to bang your head at the wall. You're not trying to force things into a square. Everything's just in flow. And most people stop here because it's just so easy to get excited about things working and then try to recreate them. And that's what creates this wheel of intense burnout, where even when you're in a self-development world where you're constantly working on yourself, people are walking around saying they're exhausted because they know what they're supposed to do in order to create these miracles, but they just don't have the energy to do the inner work anymore. And it's because they think that they need to create this energy, but really it's already created and you're missing the last step. So the last step is master a higher level of consciousness. That means that you've already created all this fuel, and now you need to propel forward using the fuel you've already created. So that's bringing gratitude. It's surrounding yourself with the people that you could tell for real, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I did this and this worked, and God really has my back, and he sent me the right people, and I met this person, and da, 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 da. The ability to prove to yourself that you're on the right track. Actually collecting evidence that everything's working is a lot easier than having to create new evidence all the time.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure too, going back to the beginning, and we could honestly go on and talk about this for another half an hour, which we don't have time for. I'm sure that you have many clients that are not sure exactly what they want. And if we don't know, it may sound strange, but many people, they know the feeling that they maybe want to have, but they don't know exactly what they want. And if we don't know what we want, we won't be able to create and take the action steps to actually make that happen. Do you see that with many of your clients?
Yes. And a lot of times I take them into a meditation. I have this gift that God gave me, that I create meditations on the spot for people based on what God is guiding me to do. And it's very, very cool. Sometimes I see that somebody is stuck in their head. They're trying to work it out themselves. Like if I don't see how it's going to work, then it's impossible. And I say, get out of your own limitations and allow God, who is unlimited, to guide you. So what ends up happening is that we turn off, temporarily the head, the brain, the overthinker, and we go into our body. And usually in the body, you can only get present. You can't be in the past. You can't be in the future. You're only in your body. Your body is right here, right now. And your soul has the ability to sort of whisper what it wants. And you'll start to get all these messages that were very subconscious come up to the surface because you're now ready to listen. So there's some really great tools and tips that I can give people. And I also want to tell you that a lot of times people are asked, what do you really want? They say, I don't know, in what area? Like, what do you mean, right? So when you get really specific, like, what do I want right now? And the answer could be, I want a cup of water, or I want him to stop talking, or I want to just leave. And those are very legit things. If you say, what do I really want right now in this fight? I want a break. I want pause. I need to think. I need to breathe. I need to get out of like where I'm looping into. So now you know what you need. The obvious next thing is, God, help me pause this situation and then take action. 1 second, I have to go to the bathroom, or 1 second, I have to walk outside, or 1 second, we have to pause this. And you're going to see that it's accepted much, much better from the other parties, that things start to flow much smoother because you're no longer sort of leaning on yourself. You're leaning on God with the very clear guidance of you and what God put you here to do right now. So as I said, it's very big and broad. You could use it for what do I want for my marriage right now? But you could also use it right here, right now, in this moment, and that's
exactly for ourselves and as well as our marriages. And I'm sure you agree as well that when we work on ourselves and when we empower ourselves and when we're feeling good within ourselves, we are not only better parents, but we're also better wives if we're talking to women, or better husbands if it's a male watching.
Right. And I only work with women, and people come a lot with very big complaints like, don't you get it? It takes two to tango. And I say, actually, it doesn't. It takes one person to take responsibility. And you are not doing it for the marriage. You're doing it for you because it's important to you that you be happy. And when you take that responsibility about yourself, then you take him off the hook and you stop trying to force other people and control other things and things that you can't control. You are only focused on you and what you can do in order to live your life better. And you're creating flow in the things you can create. And then you leave it all to God to just sort of like rearrange and make everything fall into place. It's so, so powerful how a woman can single-handedly change her marriage.
Absolutely. You are so right on that. Bat-Chen Grossman, aka Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, I love your nature. I love what you represent. I love your positive attitude. How can people reach you? And then one last question, Bat-Chen, moving forward, your vision, the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see for yourself?
Wow. So how can people reach me? Connected for Real podcast and connectedforreal.com is my website. You can have a freebie if you want. It's called the Guide to Unravel Overwhelm, and it's at connectedforreal.com/guide. And that is a gift from me to all of your beautiful listeners. What is my vision for, what did you say, 3 to 5 years?
Where do you see yourself moving forward? Where do you see your business developing, benefiting your clients, helping the world like you do now?
I really like, I originally thought, oh, in 3 to 5 years, I want to have like, bigger, more multi, like groups and masterminds, things like that. That's maybe my past self would have said. But now that we went through this, terror attack and how I sort of regrounded myself, I really believe that the offer I have right now, which is my one-on-one private coaching, is the best way to help people because it's so private and so unique to every person. Like I said, I create a meditation. It's exactly to what she needs to hear. And it's not anything that needs to serve multiple people, right? It's like very, very focused. And I originally thought, oh, it's so lame to have a one-on-one offer. Like, don't I want more? Like, no, I don't want more. I want you to get exactly what you need. And this is it. So I'm actually seeing that this is probably an offer that's going to continue going. And I'd like more of those because I have more availability. So please, God, if any of you are listening and interested in working with me, I have some spots open.
Okay, fabulous. Wow, Bat-Chen Grossman, Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, thank you so much for being such an inspiring guest on our Monday Motivation Spotlight. Exactly what we stand for: inspiration, motivation, and positive people. We wish you everything of the best for the future, and check out Bat-Chen's site, check out her podcast, and just, stay safe and just keep on doing the amazing things that you're doing. Thank you so much. So you've been listening to another Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you as always to our sponsors, Egan & Cohen Insurance, as well as to Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. I'm Israel Chai. Have a great day or evening whenever you listening to this, and we will see you next time every Monday on the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining.